Welcome and good afternoon to the regular meeting of the City of Glendale Commission on the Status of Women. Roll call, please.
Vice Chair Burns.
Present.
Commissioner Devine.
Here.
Commissioner Kajayan.
Here.
Ex officio Mirsahanian.
Present.
Ex officio Sahakian.
Present.
Commissioner Wiseman.
Present.
Chair Miller.
Present.
The agenda for the December 9th, 2013 meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside of City Hall on or before December 6, 2013.
Next item on the agenda, please.
Item 2, introductions and presentations. At A, Brown Act presentation, Lucy Varpetian, Senior Assistant City Attorney.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to do a quick presentation to this body about the Ralph M. Brown Act. We have a PowerPoint. We're going to try to get through that fairly quickly. All meetings of a legislative body of a local agency shall be open to the public, and all persons shall be permitted to attend any meeting of the legislative body of a local agency except as otherwise permitted in this chapter. That is the legislative finding as it relates to the Brown Act, and it basically says that all these meetings that we attend or that we hold must be open to the public, and the public must have an unconditional right to attend. What is a legislative body? They include, obviously, the City Council, but all of the boards and commissions and the committees that are created by formal action of the legislative body by the City Council are also considered to be subject to the Brown Act. As you know, there's an exception to that, and that those are the ad hoc committees. They generally have a very limited time and purpose. It is usually made up of a smaller group of commissioners. That's usually a number less than a quorum. The Act governs the meetings that we hold, and that is a meeting as a congregation at the same time and place by a majority of the members of the Commission, and it is to hear, discuss, and deliberate on an item within their subject matter jurisdiction. Serial meetings are also prohibited, and what that means is that the use of intermediaries or any technological device such as email, texting, the internet, telephone, all those forms of communications employed by a majority to develop a collective concurrence is also prohibited by the Brown Act. So in-person meetings and also any meetings, any discussions that could occur as a result of email, telephone, and those types of communications. A serial meeting looks like this. It's when Commissioner A speaks with Commissioner B, and then Commissioner B speaks with Commissioner C, and with those three people communicating, you now have a majority of this body communicating with one another, and that is an act that is prohibited by the Brown Act. A different way with that is the hub and spoke example, and that is you have one individual, one member who carries that message from the next and then to the next. So again, if those things are occurring outside a formal meeting such as this one, that is something that is prohibited by the Act. The next example, which is also prohibited, is when staff or a third party acts as the intermediary. And what that means is you have a conversation with one of the staff members. That staff member has a discussion with another commissioner and actually shares with that commissioner the comments from the first and then takes it to the third. Those are prohibited so that conversation that's occurring outside a formal meeting such as this is prohibited. So if you are party to a conversation and you have a third party, staff knows not to do that, but most members of the public do not know that. And so they may say, well, I spoke with Commissioner A and her comments to me, as soon as they start going down that path, it's incumbent on the commissioner to say, I don't need to hear the rest of that. That's a prohibited discussion that's occurring outside of a public meeting. So I ask politely, please do not continue your comments to me. So action taken defined in the Act, it is a collective decision, a collective commitment or promise, and it could even be an actual vote when sitting as a body. So those are the things that are defined under the Act as what an action is that's taken. Conversations such as emails, which advance or clarify a member's understanding of an issue, facilitate an agreement or compromise among members, and advance the ultimate resolution of an issue, those are all also defined as actions taken. So you want to be careful with that. If you're looking to get a clarification on an issue, it's always best to have that discussion with a member of the staff who doesn't have the same types of restrictions that other commissioners do. And an example of that is when you have committee member or Commissioner A send an email to Commissioner B, and they say, I think I will vote to recommend the proposed, well, you don't propose ordinances, but the proposed action. How about you? By the way, I have C lined up, and D is leaning my way as well. With your vote, it should pass with our commission. That's something that is prohibited by the Brown Act. So you want to be cautious about that. There is a case that talked about individual briefings of members of a body with staff. That is not a violation of the Brown Act. So what that means is you can have one-on-one briefings with either your legal counsel or staff to the commission, and that is not a violation of the Brown Act. And staff knows to have those individual briefings without sharing with one commissioner the comments of the other. So the key is avoiding developing a collective concurrence either directly or through a conduit. So as I said, staff knows not to disclose the views and the positions of elected or appointed officials. It's a slippery slope for the communication, especially when you're using emails amongst the commissioners. It creates a slippery slope. Sometimes what will happen is it's easy for us to send a mass email to the entire commission and say, attached is a copy of Monday's agenda, and then you start getting comments, oh, I started reviewing item A, and I really don't like it. If you get those types of reply all emails, that becomes problematic. So you want to be cautious about that. You want to make sure not to do that. Staff will generally blind copy commissioners so that that type of inadvertent discussion doesn't take place via email. What is not a meeting? So I've talked to you a little bit about all of the things that are prohibited. It's important to know when it's okay for commissioners to come together. Conferences open to the public where general issues are discussed, that is not considered to be a meeting under the Brown Act. That's prohibited. Community organized meetings that are open and publicized, that's okay, not a violation of the Brown Act. Individual contacts with third persons where you want to talk about commission issues, that's okay, not a problem. Attendance at open noticed meetings of another local agency or other board. If you're invited to attend, for example, the Pasadena Commission on the Status of Women, if you're invited to attend their meeting that's open, noticed, and publicized. But what you can't do is sit together in the back and discuss amongst yourselves issues specific in nature that is not on the scheduled program. So you can attend those meetings, but what you shouldn't do is sit together in the back and start having a discussion about items that are germane to this commission. Social or ceremonial occasions are also okay, and obviously less than a quorum. The two of you can have a conversation with one another. You'll see this more often in the ad hoc committee meetings. Those are all okay. You just want to be cautious not to add the third person into that discussion. That's when it becomes problematic. The Brown Act then says that we are required to provide notice of these meetings. Regular meetings, which our Monday meetings are, require a 72-hour notice. Everything that we are going to discuss needs to be a part of the agenda. Special meetings, you'll remember we had that last month, require a 24-hour notice. Emergency meetings will generally not come up in the context of a commission. That's more appropriate for the City Council. Those two require notice. And what it says is that the agenda must be posted in a place accessible to the public. And as you know, we post those in the bulletin board outside City Hall, and that's the announcement that Ms. Hidalgo reads at the beginning of each meeting to confirm that, in fact, the meeting notice or the agenda was posted outside the bulletin board in City Hall. If the public requests copies of the agenda packets, they could do that in writing, and that written request is good for 1 calendar year. What that means is that if they make that request, we are required to mail them a copy of the agenda. The agenda requirement, and you see this, this is the way that we describe this. It's generally a very brief description, but what it's meant to do is to provide the public with enough information so that if they were concerned about that item, they could attend this meeting and speak with you about it. And we already talked about it being posted in a place that's accessible. Items that are not on the agenda, those are prohibited. Sometimes you'll have individuals who come up during oral comment and make a statement. And while it's okay for commissioners to ask questions of the speaker, what you cannot do is then have a discussion amongst yourselves about the comments that the individual who spoke at oral comment has made, because that item is not on the agenda. And so as a result of that, you can't then have a conversation about it. What you can do is request that staff agendizes that at a future meeting. The other time where it's okay to make comments is during commissioner comments. And I have to stress the brevity of the comments that are made here. Brief announcements or responses to comments or questions are okay, but if you practice sitting quietly for 30 seconds, you'll see how long it is. There's no time limit that's placed on this, but you do want to keep in mind that if it's not on the agenda, then your comments must be incredibly brief. Again, by expanding or lengthening the conversation, you're really depriving the public of the opportunity to come by and speak on it. So if you do have lengthy comments that you need to make during commissioner comments, best way to do that is to request that it be placed on a future agenda and that we can discuss it that way. The other exception is the need to act immediately on a matter that arose after the posting of the agenda. Again, this generally does not come up during commissioner meetings. It is more common during council meetings. It usually comes up. There's very specific exceptions to that rule. So I really don't foresee that coming up in the context of a commission. The public access, we cannot require conditional attendance. We cannot require that individuals state their names or act in a particular way. There is no conditional attendance. Everyone is invited to attend these meetings and to participate. Public must have the opportunity to address the commission, and we do have that time that is on every agenda. And as you know, they can also comment on items that are on the agenda itself. The public's comments, as you know, it's a little bit different for the City Council than it is for a commission. Your subject matter is more limited, and so those comments that are made by the public to this commission should really be germane to the work of this commission. And sometimes, while we like to hear from the public, if they are really speaking on a topic that belongs to the City Council, we generally invite them to make those comments there. But general issues of interest within the jurisdiction of the body, public must have the opportunity to address the commission on agenda items before or during consideration of the item. The commission may absolutely impose time limits on that. And if the matter was heard at a committee level, then we can handle that a little bit differently. The public, as you know, may criticize the work of the commission, the policies, the procedures, the programs, or the services, and we ask that you don't take those personally. That's just a different opinion that someone may have. The public may tape or broadcast unless they are somehow disrupting the meeting, and then we can ask them to leave. Again, not a problem at this level, at a commission level. The documents that we provide to you, we must also make those available to the public. Writings distributed to the majority of the legislative body is to be available. And sometimes we have documents that come up at the last minute. What we're required to do is to also keep copies of those in the back of the room, and so individuals can access those. If distributed inside of that 72 hours, they must be available at a designated location. That for us is the city clerk's office. And if someone requires it in alternative formats, we must also make that available. Meetings outside the jurisdiction are permitted under limited circumstances. Again, not an issue here. Teleconferencing, including voting, if you are traveling and you cannot attend a meeting, but there's an issue that's on the agenda that is of particular interest to you and you'd like to participate in that meeting, if you advise us of that in advance, we could make that happen. But it requires that the place where you are going to be, that you have the same, that you meet the same posting requirements of the agenda. And so we've actually had council members run down to the lobby of the hotel where they were saying, and post the agenda that far out in advance so that they would then have the ability to, I don't know that anyone in Hawaii is going to be interested in an issue that you have here, but that's a Brown Act requirement and we have to comply. Meetings must meet the protections and the prohibitions of the ADA, and secret ballots are prohibited. There are a limited number of cases where we could go into closed session. I can't remember in the history of this commission where we've ever had to do that. They are generally as a result of litigation, anticipated or pending, labor negotiations, real estate negotiations, things of those sorts, which I think have never come up in the history of this commission. The reason the Brown Act is important is that with it come personal criminal liabilities. This criminal liability is if it's intentional and it's with the deprivation is the intent is to deprive the information to the public, carries with it criminal charges. There are some curative provisions as well. So if an action was taken outside of the public meeting, then the act that was taken may be considered void. So there could be civil actions. As I said, the person bringing the lawsuit could also be entitled to attorney's fees. And so violation of the Brown Act is pretty serious. The district attorney's office actually has a public integrity unit that's that oversees this side of it. So it's something that we like to periodically remind our commissioners. And I guess tonight was your lucky night. So with that, my presentation is concluded, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Farpetian, and thank you for all the work that you do on behalf of this commission and attending all our meetings and keeping us in order. We very much appreciate it. Does anyone on the commission have any questions regarding the Brown Act? Okay, let's go to the next item on the agenda, please.
Item 3, oral comment. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. The commission may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or discussion. Staff may refer the matter to the proper department for investigation and report.
And we have one speaker before us, Annie Ortega. She's here to discuss a community safety event. Welcome, Annie.
Thank you very much, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here because I'd like to talk about the community safety event that the Alcohol and Other Drug Prevention Services program that's a part of D.D. Hirsch Mental Health Services here in Glendale is co-sponsoring with the City of Glendale's Community Services and Parks. On Monday, so a week from tonight, from 5 o'clock to 6:30, we will be hosting this community safety event at Pacific Community Center from 5 o'clock to 6:30 p.m. That's our lovely flyer. It's a great opportunity for parents and families to learn about community safety. You know, the purpose that, for this event is for parents and families to learn about safety in the community. And the reason that we partnered with police as well as Walk Bike Glendale to co-facilitate our presentation and focus on both walking and biking safely in Glendale and the legal consequences of drinking and driving, as well as allowing access to alcohol for underage drinkers, is that in December we see a rise in the number of first-time use among adolescents. In our research, we found that the age of onset, the age at which youth typically start experimenting with alcohol, is about 13 or 14 years of age, and the daily average of first-time use peaks in the months of December, June, and July. So we really want to focus on talking to parents and adults about how they can prevent underage drinking, and that mainly has to do with controlling access to alcohol. I think that's of particular importance at a time in December when alcohol may be in abundance. We have a lot of holiday parties. So, you know, we're really happy to partner with all these different agencies in the City of Glendale, and we hope that, you know, the community really takes advantage of this opportunity to learn not only about safety but also about controlling access to alcohol, which is of particular importance for our program. Alcohol is still the #1 used substance amongst youth. So we're trying to educate the community as well as youth in working in schools and working with parents and adults about how they can help to prevent underage drinking. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments? Okay. Seeing that there are no other speakers, this item is closed. And if we could go to the next item on the agenda, please.
Item 4, consent items. At A, approval of the minutes of the special commission meeting held on November 12, 2013.
And do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve.
And if you could take a roll call, please.
Certainly. Vice Chair Burns?
Abstain.
Commissioners Devine? Kajayan?
Yes.
Wiseman?
Yes.
Chair Miller?
Yes. At this time, if we could take item 6A out of order to accommodate our speaker who's here, Ms. Hidalgo. And would you please read that item into the record?
Sure. Item 6, reports information only. At A, update on information regarding resources for young women coming out of jail or prison.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chair Miller, members of the Commission. Thank you for adjusting your schedule for me. Appreciate that again. I just wanted to, again, report on some questions that came up from the previous, actually, 2 meetings before this October that came up regarding the discussions and questions about women coming out of prison, particularly here in Glendale. I did submit a report, but I want to just maybe summarize a few points and add a few information that we're able to get since the submittal of the report. Questions came from the commissioners about common crimes, common issues with women in jail, and also related to their experience getting out of jail, which we call reentry into the community. Unfortunately, our data does not provide us a detailed information about what is available for each particular person that is incarcerated here, either in Glendale or, again, in the LA County system. But in looking at some of the reports generally from the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, the major offenses committed by all persons and later released are generally the same for men and women, are crimes against persons, property crimes, and drug crimes. In terms of offenses by youth, again, there were majorly crimes against persons, which is 64%, followed by property crimes at 20%. Again, that's generally for boys and girls. However, in some of the studies that we looked at,
Sorry.
I have to go now. More than one-third of the girls in custody nationwide had a history of sexual abuse, compared to 8% of boys, according to the Federal Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Department. The department report also shows that 42% of girls in custody had experienced past physical abuse, compared to 22% of boys. So there are differences in the categories within crimes committed, and girls tend to have more physical abuse or other sexual abuse issues than boys. There are two departments that are involved with the reentry of women coming back from either state or the county jail system. The first one being the Los Angeles County Probation Department, which is responsible for conducting exit interviews and assessments for women coming out of our county jail system. And there's the State Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, which is involved with the exit interviews for women coming out of the state prison system. So again, we have two different systems here. When we were asked about looking at what some of those needs are, unfortunately, we don't have access to the needs assessments surveys by these agencies. They do conduct surveys. But in some of our meetings with some of the agencies servicing the population, we did find out that the most urgent need for women coming out of jail are specialized reentry services such as substance abuse, trauma, which is very significant, and mental health. Also, very different than males is the reunification of women with their children and families. That's a much higher need than would males who are incarcerated. We were also asked a question about recidivism, which is the return back to jail from the difference between men and women. And according to the report from the California Department of Corrections, female inmates have a 52.9% rate, which return to prison, compared to 12%, which is 12% lower than males. So they do have a lower rate than males. But younger, and I call them juveniles, have a higher rate recidivism. Males, for example, have, well, actually both males and females have 70% recidivism rate. So much higher for younger persons to, again, stay out of jail than it is for the older population. And as far as the percentage of juvenile defenders by gender was 94.4% male and 5.6% male. That's for juveniles. Now, it's because there are several reasons for that. One is girls tend to have a lesser sentence, which means they're probably going to be on probation or at another juvenile facility. But generally, the percentages of male definitely outnumber females. Then we were asked a question by, I believe, Commissioner Wiseman, who asked about the numbers for the county probation department as far as our school system and how they are servicing the juvenile probation, both male and female. And I didn't provide this information in your report, but I was able to get it just today from the county probation department. And to give you an idea of the numbers, and I'll run these numbers off, both male and female. For example, Daly High School has one female probation student, 13 males, a total of 14. Glendale High School has 6 females and 22 boys for a total of 28. Hoover High School has 3 females on probation and 5 males for a total of 8. So a total of 10 females and 40 males, a total of 50. This generally gives you the same percentages overall as what the population is, but that's the numbers we have now. There was also some questions about what are the agencies around Glendale or advisory groups that are assisting with what we call reentry. And so we researched and found out that there are 2 agencies that are providing these services, and one is the called the Pasadena Reintegration Council. And that is specifically more for the AB 109 early releases. And AB 109 is a state law that allowed the transfer of some low-risk offenders from the state prison system to LA County jails. And they were also, in some cases, given limited sentences where they're able to come out onto probation or parole earlier than their sentence anticipated. So that is a different group than someone coming out of state prison system, which is on parole. These are, again, probation offenders who have different needs as well. The other group that is assisting is, again, based in Pasadena, and that's the Pasadena-Altadena Reintegration Council, the PARC. And again, they're a more broader agency that provides services to offenders. Again, they do provide for AB 109 and also the state prisoners coming out of jail, again, both male and female. So those are the agencies that do have the services, and in speaking to them, certainly they welcome the Commission to assist in any way, and mainly by providing referrals or resources, and particularly for women that they are aware of. So they do have meetings monthly. I can provide you the information directly if you'd like to be in contact with them. Certainly there's a need for, as we see, for women, particularly gender-based services. We did attend the conference last week that identified issues for women coming out of prison or jail systems, which are particularly different than males. And I can mention one of them is the reunification of family, which is much different than males who would have probably a need for jobs right away. So that's a bit of a gender issue on that reentry system. I just want to give you that data for you to review. We certainly will continue to monitor the numbers, monitor the services that are being provided for women coming out of jail. But ultimately, we look to continue support and continue our at-risk youth programs, particularly for women and young girls that need assistance and need guidance. We do have several programs, Camp Rosie, again, being one of our more successful programs that provide these specific gender-specific services. I did have a flyer that I also passed around. It is an agency that is going to work with the City of Glendale. They're networking with our Verdugo Job Center, and they do provide, again, reentry services for persons on either parole or getting out of jail, and particularly for women as well. So that concludes my presentation. If there's any questions or comments.
Yes, Commissioner Kajoyan.
Thank you, Moses, for all this information. I have only one question here. It says Commissioner may voluntarily assist with the Pasadena. It says by providing networking services and information contacts to the Reintegration Council. I want to understand what is the meaning of networking services and informations contact. If this reentry
Commissioner Kajoyan, it's particularly related to any type of services that you're aware of that might assist the council and their members to provide referral services. They use the term networking. You may know of a church group that provides some restorative justice, which was the term used in the faith-based community. You may know of mental health services that are particularly available for women that might assist them. Again, they're particularly looking for services for women in this case, in this instance. But again, it's overall.
Thank you. Do you have Commissioner Devine?
I have a couple of comments. The seminar that we attended was excellent. We learned a lot of information about AB 109 and how it's affecting women and men, both. And that's the early release of non-non-nons, the non-violent, non-sexual, non-serious offenders. The reason, and I'm going back to that comment that you made, that women are rehabilitated, they told us at the seminar that women are more easily rehabilitated than any other part of the population. We take to the responsibility of our actions and the rehabilitation better than men, mostly because, as you said, Moises, women are interested in getting the family back together. That's what they're interested in. They're not interested in, not to say that they're not interested in jobs, but men are more interested in providing. What struck me right now, as you were giving your report, which thank you, was terrific, was the number of young people on probation that we have in our schools. And that strikes me on a personal note, because when I was teaching in high school, I had a student who was on probation, and I wasn't told, and there was an issue. So what I take away from this, one of the most important things they said that we have to do at this seminar was to change the thinking, the cognitive thinking of people, population, that we have to teach them not to think in a criminal manner. And when you mention all of these young people in our schools, the first thing that comes to my mind is that perhaps the Commission, in order to make an impact on this situation, and since Commissioner Kajayan is so passionate about it, and I think the Commission can do something, and I think it has to do with the young people. And I think we discussed at the seminar having a conference of some sort or a forum, and perhaps it can be for at-risk youth. Perhaps it can be for these young girls that are on probation, and bring in some of the speakers. One of the most powerful panels that we saw Thursday was the panel on the 3 women that were on probation. And one of them was a gal that had a college education, and that was shocking. And it was only because her parents told her, don't get involved with those kids. And she took that as a challenge and ended up in prison for 10 years. So these are the kinds of issues I think that we can, or topics that we can take to the youth, and perhaps do a teen summit, teens and the law, some sort of a conference like that, where we can also integrate all of our Camp Rosie materials, life skills that they need, anger management that these kids need. And I know they need that. That's kind of what I took away from the seminar and from what you've told us tonight. And that's kind of where I stand on this, so my comments.
Thank you. Thank you, Moises, and Commissioner Devine and Commissioner Kajoyan for attending that seminar last week. That was very helpful in terms of getting the information that we needed on this report. I, too, have just 2 questions for you, if I may. I was wondering, when I was listening to you equally about the youth, if there might be some, and perhaps this is a question I have going towards staff as well, if there might be some way we can integrate this effectively into Camp Rosie, perhaps even looking at that curriculum in terms of where the needs are for that particular curriculum and what we might offer, given that we have been doing Camp Rosie for years, and we know that many of our young women who come into Camp Rosie are at risk, and perhaps there's a way to look at integrating it into something we have as well. I also wanted to know, I was reading a little bit about this reintegration council that is just right near us, Pasadena, Altadena. And I noticed that from their website, it looks like their resource fair happens more frequently than one might think. Like it appears that it's monthly.
Once a month.
Yeah. So is that a good avenue, Moises, for us to, do we have to participate in the, can we simply put our resource guide or make it available? I know that our particular commission has that resource guide. I'm not sure what the others are doing in that area, the other commissions, but is it something that we could make available to people who are going to that center?
Chair Miller, members of the commission, I think that's an excellent idea. That's a good resource for them to take that information if they're having Glendale, let's say Glendale clients, that they can utilize this service and utilize those agencies which were researched very thoroughly by our staff and are really good, excellent resources for this group. I do intend to participate in one of their meetings and possibly their fairs. You're correct. Their fairs are monthly. They seem to be in different areas of the community, one in Los Angeles, Pasadena, or El Monte, so different areas of the community. But all in all, it's a regional group, and it would be good to have that information for them. So I will get the information from staff and provide it for them for their next meeting.
That would be very helpful. Thank you. Do we have any other comments? Commissioner Weissman?
Yes, thank you. I was wondering, are there no probation students at CV or Clark? Or
Good question, Commissioner Weissman. Actually, there the schools. This is a number of the numbers I gave you were the number of those in the school. Probation officers also might serve other students that might be even in the private schools or GED students. But to answer your question, there is not a probation officer there. However, I've heard that there's a possible need up there, but just I guess staffing from LA County. So it could possibly be that those students are being served by a different probation officer, either one of these schools or a different, actually probably a different probation officer in that area.
okay, and I think I agree. Camp Rosie is a good resource, and certainly if we can reach out to the probation officers to make sure they know Camp Rosie's available, particularly for their female clients there, and try to get them enrolled and provide the material if it's relevant, to them to use for their students, even if they can't make it, to the official camp. And are you aware of anything that the Glendale Unified School District is doing to support these kids on probation, and if there's something we might be able to provide them or partner with them in that effort to?
Commissioner Weissman, I'm not aware, but however, that doesn't mean it's something not out there. There's probably something we can research, and there is a student attendance review committee, which is a school district, involves some of our staff and called SARS, and that could be a meeting that we would just find out what other services are being provided. And again, I did, just to make a note, did provide some reporting from our Youth and Family Services program in the report. Talked about the numbers of probation students that we do see in our program. So a lot of referrals are made from the probation officers. We do have a good rapport with probation officers from the school for all of our programs, but I think it's an excellent idea to promote Camp Rosie as certainly a very strong program for the girls to participate in and encourage their probation students in some way to join up as part of their probationary requirements. So that would be an excellent tool for them to do. And there may be other students probation might have that are on the verge that they see that we can probably get referrals as well for Camp Rosie programs or for other city at-risk youth programs.
Great.
Thank you.
Commissioner Devine?
Thank you. The only other comment I want to make about it is that Commissioner Kajayan and I talked to a Glendale police officer, and we're told that they do have a task force. Our police department has a task force of probation officers or officers that go out and about checking in on the AB 109 parolees. And let's make sure that they have our resource guide as well to give to all of those that they see. That might be helpful.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you again, Moises. I think you have our feedback on Camp Rosie. I think we also have some other ideas that came up here today on the dais regarding other programs we might offer. So as you're out there in the community, as in the role that you play for the city, if you could very much keep in mind some of the comments of this commission and provide us with feedback about how we could do more or where there's an area of need that we could participate in.
Absolutely. Okay.
The name of the summit, by the way, we do want to thank as a commission the Office of Senator Carol Liu, was 2 years later the mixed impact of criminal justice realignment on Los Angeles area women. And again, we had Moises Carrillo, Commissioner Devine, and Commissioner Kajoyan attend that. And so we're very grateful for their involvement on this very important topic.
Great. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So if we could go back to the regularly scheduled agenda and move on to the next item.
Sure, that would be item 5, action items. At A, consideration and discussion of sponsorship of Glendale Unified School District's 2014 Yellow Ribbon Week, Hands and Words Project. At 1 is a motion providing direction regarding sponsorship of Glendale Unified School District's 2014 Yellow Ribbon Week, Hands and Words Project.
Ms. Alexanian, could you please provide us a report on this item?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Miller. Before you today is an item from GUSD requesting sponsorship of a project called Hands and Words Project that takes place in the GUSD schools during Yellow Ribbon Week. Yellow Ribbon Week is usually the third week of January, and it's set by GUSD, and it's to raise awareness regarding violence and prevention efforts in the schools. And in 2014, that's the week of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, which is January 20th through the 24th. The Hands and Words Are Not for Hurting Project is a nonprofit organization located in Salem, Oregon. It was founded in 1997, and their mission is to educate each person in every community about their moral and legal right to live free of abuse and violence. I know the Commission talked about the Hands and Words Project as part of Domestic Violence Awareness Month and as part of the Purple Ribbon event. We had the youth take the oath at the Purple Ribbon event. But this commission has for years worked with GUSD in incorporating some stickers, wristbands, brochures in both English and Spanish. And usually we sponsor the project by purchasing the items and have it shipped to GUSD, and they incorporate that as part of the curriculum at the schools and all the GUSD schools. The pledge includes, not to use violence, verbal or physical, to control others, not to tolerate any form of abuse from others, to ask for help, not to hurt yourself with words or actions, and to develop healthy relationships based on respect and equality. The partnership with GUSD has been, I believe, for 8 years. The Commission has sponsored, and historically or in the past, the Commission has sponsored this project for $3,500. Last year, GUSD did request a little bit more, which was $4,000 due to the increase in need. And basically, they purchased stickers, silicone wristbands, informational brochures, like I said, in English and Spanish, and they've also purchased pins in the past and also banners. 1 year, the Commission funded for the different schools to purchase big banners, which they display at the schools during Yellow Ribbon Week. I guess at this point, staff is looking for direction from the Commission if you wish to sponsor this event for 2014. And the funds, again, would be used to purchase stickers, silicone wristbands, and informational brochures, depending on what their supply is like from previous years or how they would like to change the numbers. But like I said before, last year they purchased 7,000 stickers, 2,600 silicone wristbands, and 6,500 informational brochures. So this concludes my report, and staff is looking for direction from Commission on the sponsorship.
Thank you. It would be interesting at this point, before we go into discussion, to hear from our two student ex officios about their experience with this at their schools and what they know about it.
Should I begin? Okay.
Yes.
So at Herbert Hoover High School, where I attend, we usually do have everything that goes along with Yellow Ribbon Week, so that includes a table with a banner, and there's another banner that hangs in our main quad. So the table does include, as stated, stickers, brochures, and other informational items. However, I feel as if at the high school level, most students do not pay attention to it, unfortunately. So what I would recommend is that we would extend this opportunity to the middle school and elementary school levels, because in middle schools and elementary schools it is included in the curriculum, and there are assemblies that take place and other events within the schools, so that would further benefit them and it would be more successful for the elementary and middle school levels. However, it all depends on Commission's point of view. That's just something that happens in my high school, and unfortunately, students do not pay attention to that. So,
At Crescenta Valley, I feel we've united as a school to take a stand against this issue, and the students do care a lot about, despite high schoolers being a little bit zoned out most of the time. But the students do care, and most of them do, and I'm sure at Hoover they also do care, but I feel that we shouldn't overspend and we shouldn't underspend on such an important issue, and if there are things that are left from the past years, we should reuse them, and then we should spend our money wisely and help these students at the same time. That's all.
Commissioner Weissman?
It was my understanding a few years ago, Glendale Unified started doing a different program for the high schools. I don't know if any of our ex officios saw a film on dating violence rather than the Hands and Words. The Hands and Words program is great, but it is geared for smaller, younger students. Although personally, I wish that the adults involved in a lot of our activities could take the pledge and actually, behave that way too. But do the ex officio members have any experience with the dating violence film, and would that be a better use of resources to combat, bullying and violence and that sort of thing?
I've never experienced any movie at school being played on the subject of dating violence, but I feel it would be extremely beneficial because it's such a prevalent issue today, and there's an ignorance within the community about that issue.
Is there a way to incorporate our dating palm cards into the high school during the same exact week, if this is the question where we're going? Is the discussion really about what age group of students that's happening up here, or is it what we're using, or?
I don't really feel that it's very beneficial to put it within the elementary schools or the middle schools, because they're not as developed as they are in high school, and their actions are a little bit more significant. But I don't think it's a matter of age. I think it's a matter of use of the things.
We have comments both down, Commissioner Vice Chair Burns.
Are we talking about the movie that we all saw, or some of us saw here? We're not talking about that one.
No,
You're sure?
I don't.
That one wouldn't seem to be appropriate.
Actually, I'm not sure what movie you're talking about.
As I remember, it was a movie very disturbing to most of it. Yes.
So are you saying that you think that would be a better choice for the students in the high schools?
I don't want to scare them, but I want them to be aware of this. But no, I don't feel it would be. I think there's a different way to show them. A movie wouldn't be as effective because people are just going to zone out. But if we hand out things and make them available, then they can take their own time and look at it themselves and enjoy it to their purpose.
Commissioner Devine.
Through this when I was on the Safe Family Task Force, we worked with the City of Glendale, the Unified District, and in the 9th grades, they have a safe dating curriculum. We worked with not Peace of Ryan's, Break the Cycle. So they all 9th graders in the Glendale Unified School District get a curriculum, a course on safe dating, and that's what the palm cards were designed for. So they are given out at that time, and to those students. And then I think during Yellow Ribbon Week, the palm cards are given out to everybody. But the movie that you're referring to is not the movie that I'm sure that they're seeing at any age in our school system. The Kellys came 2 years ago and did presentations at the elementary schools and at the high schools. And at Glendale High School, they showed a film on suicide, which was quite empowering. I mean, quite moving, and the kids responded to it very well. They showed it in the auditorium. That's the film that the Kellys would show, and that's part of Hands and Words. But the film that you're discussing is for adults, and that was one that we showed at the YWCA, and that wouldn't, and even some adults didn't want to see that one, so because of the violence. So that was the film that you're speaking about.
Yes.
Commissioner Burns is the one that's done in it's from the eyes of the abuser.
From the batterer.
Yes, yeah. So it ended violently. So that was not the one. But our high schools already have a curriculum in place for dating, safe dating. So we don't have to get involved with that again, I don't think.
So in terms of where we're going, as we're leading, the action item that we're leading up to is really to look at the monies that we've spent in the past and spending that again. Does anybody want to comment on that specifically? We've had input from our students, but do we have any comments from the commission?
Well, if I may,
Commissioner Vaughn.
I just think if there's a way of finding out how much we spend at the high schools or how much the high schools spend, if we can subtract that from the amount that we allocate, then that would be a savings to us. It would be money that we're not spending willy-nilly, and who knows how much of the product that they still have. So, I don't know if there's a way of you finding that out.
I did speak to the representative from GUSD that we usually work with, and she did give me the numbers, which are very similar to the ones we had from previous years. But again, it depends on the funding that the commission's able to sponsor. And my understanding is in previous years, and they would do it again this year, is if commission does not support it for the $4,000, then GUSD would pay the difference to be able to fund what they need.
A question and what they believe they need is for all levels, elementary, yes, middle, and high school.
Correct.
So okay.
My understanding is it's all the schools in the GUSD, so it would be at all the levels. Obviously the materials or the number of products that we buy would not be sufficient for every single person in all the schools, and so they do make it available at tables, and if people are interested, they can take one. It would cost a whole lot more to be able to buy enough wristbands or stickers or pins or anything to be able to give it to every single person in the high school. But my understanding is it makes a difference, and GUSD would like to continue the project.
I have a couple of questions, if I may, just to see, I'm more of the belief system on this topic that I don't believe we have enough data yet to tell us truly about effective versus ineffective. We have input, which is quite valuable from our students, and we thank them for that. But when I look at scenarios and I look at their effectiveness, I always look at what we've done, there's a number of ways to look at that. And so, for example, I asked this last year, and I'm going to ask it again. I really wonder if staff can help us have someone from GUSD come and speak to us about the effectiveness of this program in February. I was wondering if we could put that on the agenda so that we could really hear from them, because if GUSD is saying to us we need this, then we as a commission want to honor that and the partnership that we have with them. When we look at the division of the numbers, again, in terms of cost, I'm always fairly conservative on costs and what we approve, but when we look at this is 5 high schools, and if GUSD comes back to us and says this is effective in those 5 high schools, then I would, of course, they're the experts on what the students, and I would follow that. I also wonder what we as a commission could do in terms of volunteering our time during January, if we could go into the schools, if we can make it more effective for anybody who's interested. I know that we've done that in the past, but if anybody, any one commissioner wanted to go into any of the schools, or more than one commissioner, we could, find out who's interested and go down that path so that we really have given it our best effort in 2014, and then based on the effectiveness, come back and reevaluate where we might go. So that's my belief on the cost. I'm not so set on what the actual tool will be. If these students are telling us that that the pledge isn't something that they want to do at the high school level, well, we have the dating and the palm cards, and we have a cost associated with that. So I still think that if GUSD is telling us all levels, I really think we should honor that, but maybe it's a matter of finding what's most effective is really.
Chair Miller, I'm sure GUSD would be more than willing to come back and present to us. Just to note, because of the timing, it would be hard to bring them here for a presentation in February because Yellow Ribbon Week is in January. So unfortunately, we won't be able to have them here to present before you make a decision for 2014, but I'd be more than willing, and I'm sure they would be too, is to come back with a report on how it was spent and a breakdown of which schools.
I did ask for a February agenda. I was actually looking for effectiveness. I don't need to hear from them to vote.
Okay.
I want them to come to us afterwards and tell us how effective it is.
That would definitely work for them to come back and give a report, but I just wanted to make sure we know that we won't be able to delay the vote. I guess that's what I wanted to clarify.
We won't delay it.
Yeah, and that
Commissioner Devine.
And that was what I was going to say, is the fact that we can't wait until February because they need the products by January. So I'd be willing to make a motion tonight that we allocate $3,500 to the school district to continue the Hands and Words program, and then they can use that as they see fit.
I will second that.
For discussion purposes, how did you come up with 3,500 when last year we did 4,000?
Prior to.
Well, because right now we're talking about perhaps eliminating some of it in the high schools, and also Ms. Alexanian said that they would be willing to put in any extra money so that if they want to do it in the high schools, if they feel it's effective in the high schools, then they can put that money in. When they come to us in February, they can give us a report, and if they have a good reason for why we should continue supporting this program in the high schools, then next year, keep that in mind, make notes, and then next year we can go back to the 4,000.
But they spent the entire 4,000, right? From what they told you prior to this meeting, they spent the entire 4,000. So they'll make up the 500 if we vote that way.
Right, or they might just adjust, and I mean, if they need all the materials, then yes, they will make up the difference, is what the GUSD staff person said, as they will pay for the difference in what they need if we're not able to fund the entire amount.
And one last comment just before we go on to the vote, or we'll also hear from Vice Chair Burns. I want to be really clear, I was not requesting to delay the vote. I'm requesting that they come and speak to us about the effectiveness afterwards. That was always my statement. Vice Chair Burns?
It appears that last year we gave 4,000. The years before, 3,500. So that there was a request last year for an additional 500. If I understood correctly.
Correct.
And my position is I don't think we have enough data to reduce it. But again,
I see.
I don't believe we have enough data at this point to reduce it.
Well, I think the thought.
So I'd go with 4,000.
All right. The thought would be that the GUSD would make up the difference of the 500 if we went back to 3,500. Is that not correct?
That is
a one-year swing.
Ms. Alexanian just confirmed that
Yes.
they would make up the difference. And remember, we do have a motion. We do have a second.
Yes.
So is there more discussion on this?
I had a question. What does the $3,500 go to exactly?
Well, based on last year's information, the 35 or the 4,000, like last year the 4,000 was 7,000 stickers, 2,600 silicone wristbands, 6,500 informational brochures, and then shipping, of course.
Okay, so there's no room for maybe a volunteer or a speaker to come to the high schools to speak about this issue? Because I feel that would be the best form of communication to relay this issue to the high schools. A presentation may not be as effective, but an assembly about this issue may be a little bit more effective.
Right now, the school district is looking for sponsorship for the materials. As far as a speaker, it's something that they could look into, or we can assist them in looking into, but it's something GUSD would want to do and be willing to do, and would need to bring them into their curriculum. So something I could suggest to the staff is if commission...
If we could find out which commissioners are interested. We also want to remind that we have 2 pretty exceptional student ex officios, and we look to you to also help us in your high schools as well. Yes.
Chair Miller, I agree it would behoove us to receive a presentation by the district on this program, and I think that would help answer all of these questions that we have up here, including how they might consider redesigning their program, or how the commission could be more actively involved to expand and promote their effort and things like that. So I think that would be a good decision.
Great. So we have a motion, we have a second. Are there any more comments before we take a vote? The motion, again, as restated, is to support the Hands and Words project in the amount of $3,500. We have a second on that. And do we have a roll call?
Vice Chair Burns?
Yes.
Commissioners Devine?
Yes.
Kajayan?
Yes.
Wiseman?
Yes.
Chair Miller?
Yes. Okay. Next item on the agenda, please.
Next is item 5B, consideration and discussion of the Gemstone of Glendale Award, sponsorship levels, and nomination period for the awards for the 10th Annual Jewels of Glendale Awards Luncheon. At 1 is a motion to provide direction regarding the Gemstone of Glendale Award. At 2, motion providing direction regarding the sponsorship levels for the 2014 Jewels of Glendale Awards Luncheon. And at 3, motion establishing the nomination period for the awards for the 2014 Jewels of Glendale Awards Luncheon.
And Ms. Alexanian, can we have a brief report, please?
Sure. Chair Miller, members of the Commission, we had a busy month in trying to finalize the what we used to refer to as the Veterans Grant Award that was discussed. Last month at the meeting, the Commission approved the location and venue for the Jewels Luncheon, which would be Thursday, May 8th at Oakmont Country Club. And commissioners volunteered for various committees to help in planning the event. Just to remind the commissioners and to make sure that this is, staff got this correct, the sponsorship committee would be headed by Commissioner Wiseman. Advertisements would be Commissioner Kajayan and ex officio Sahakian. The silent auction and giveaways would be Commissioner Devine and ex officio Mirzakhanian, and the speaker talent awards would be Chair Miller and event chair Burns. As part of the discussion, the Commission also approved a Veterans Grant Award and approved a committee or a subcommittee to evaluate the guidelines and criteria for the Veterans Grant Award. To add to the Jewels Luncheon, we currently have 2 awards, which are the Jewel of Glendale and the Gem of Glendale Award. And the 3rd award to be added would be a Veterans Grant. The subcommittee that discussed this Veterans Grant were Commissioners Devine, Wiseman, and ex officio Sahakian, including staff. We met and discussed the purpose of the award, the use of the funds to be awarded, the amount of the award, the qualification criteria, the evaluation criteria, and established guidelines for the nomination, application, and evaluation rating sheet. The committee met with representatives from Glendale Community College, the veterans representative from Glendale Community College, Charles Shumati, and the Glendale Community College Veterans Association co-founder, Crystal Veer, and the Glendale College Foundation Executive Director Lisa Brooks, and we discussed some of the needs and the GI Bill. The meeting helped clarify the highest priority of need for veteran students, and those were educational expenses, child care, and rent. We also discussed various options and the best way to formalize the award, and would it be best to award it to an individual or to an organization to benefit multiple. And in the end, the committee recommends a $1,000 scholarship awarded to one Glendale veteran who's engaged in community service that reflects the core values and mission of the commission for educational expenses, including tuition, books, and materials needed for a class. One thing that the meeting with the GCC representatives, one thing that we came away with is the GI Bill helps pay for certain specific classes, but it doesn't help pay for other classes that might be of interest to the students, and also materials for the classes. So let's say a chemistry class that requires materials, or an art class that requires certain materials, the GI Bill will not help them pay for. So at least with this scholarship, it will allow the student to pay for other expenses that they would need, and not just tuition. The eligibility criteria that the commission came up with, and the nomination form and the rating sheet are attached to the report as an exhibit, but the eligibility criteria would be providing proof of enrollment in an institution of higher education, which can be a college, university, trade school, or a certification program. And they would have to live in Glendale, be involved in the community, and provide community service that benefits women and children, and register in an institution of higher education, like I mentioned before. The evaluation criteria, and there are questions that the committee came up with, and I don't know if you want me to run through the questions, and I'll read them real quick just for the viewing public if they don't have the report in front of them. But the questions that the committee came up with would be: please provide a biographical sketch of yourself, including military service, and to include years of service, place of deployment, branch of military. Describe the impact the military had on your life and how your military experience has or can help you enhance the lives of women in our community. Discuss your present past academic accomplishments, including GPAs, degrees, certificates. Describe your academic and or vocational goals. Describe obstacles that you are currently facing in order to achieve your goals, and how would this grant be used to help you overcome your obstacles. And the evaluation criteria, and reading through the different applications, whether it's a self-nomination or it's submitted by another organization or an individual for someone else, would be academic progress, degree of need, impact on women and girls in Glendale, exhibits ambition, and the overall rating. The title that the committee ended up with or recommends is the Gemstone of Glendale. And there were a couple of titles considered, including the Diamond Award or the Blue Topaz Award. And in the end, Gemstone is what the final recommendation is, and stone being associated with strength and courage, and is also descriptive of the veterans and the strength and courage that they display in serving our community. And of course, gem being descriptive of the exceptional honoree, and also complementing the Jewel and Gem Award, which we currently have as part of the luncheon for the other awards. The Blue Topaz was one that really stuck with the committee, and was, I think, the first choice, but just to be consistent with the title of the other awards, and because of the fact that that gem is associated with courage and overcoming fears and obstacles, and is the stone for writers, scholars, artists, and intellectuals. And this was something that we were able to find online, and what the Blue Topaz represents. So, but to be consistent and the overall title of the award, where the committee recommends the Gemstone Award of Glendale. I don't know if you want me to stop there and have a discussion on this portion, or if you want me to proceed to the nomination period, because I don't want to. I'm not sure what would be easier for the commission, but it might be easier to stop and discuss this and then go to the next portion of the report, which will be to discuss the nomination period for the 3 awards.
And I have a question for you. The action item on this is to accept the recommendations of the ad hoc committee. That's ultimately what we're going for, right?
Right. Ultimately, yes. I mean,
and why don't we hear it in entirety? If you could go on, that'd be great. If you could keep going on.
Okay,
with the
so you
entire
want me to go
report?
through the
Yeah.
nomination? Okay. The nomination period is basically the period that the public has to nominate or self-nominate individuals for the different awards. And we had a discussion at the last meeting, but we decided to delay it to this meeting to have the discussion for the Veterans Grant Award. But staff is recommending the nomination period to be December 16th through Monday, December 16th through Friday, February 7th, and that's an 8-week period. Last year's nomination period was December 2nd through February 1st, and then we extended it to February 22nd. So in order to give us enough time for the award committee to review the nominees and be able to provide the names to graphics in time to print the invitations, because the invitations that go out have the names of the honorees, we would like to give us a week if we need to extend that period, or if you want to just go ahead and add that week to the February 7th date. It's up to you, but we don't want to go any further than the middle of February for the nomination period end date, because of the fact that we need to have the nominees selected and to graphics by early March in order to have the invitations ready to go out. The third part of this report is the sponsorship levels. Last year, the sponsorship levels offered for the Jules Luncheon were a diamond sponsor at $5,000, which includes 10 seats and a full-page ad in the program. A sapphire sponsor at $2,500, which is 6 seats and a half page in the program. Emerald, which is $1,000 with 4 seats and half a page in the program. And a ruby at $500 with 2 seats and business card size ads in the program. This year, staff is recommending to add a level of sponsorship called the scholarship or blue topaz, depending on what the commission wants to call it, to be consistent with the names of the blue topaz to be consistent with the names of the gems identifying a level of sponsorship. And this would be at $1,000, and it would be for the scholarships that are awarded as part of the luncheon for the gem of Glendale and the gemstone of Glendale. So due to legal findings, we are not able to spend the funds that are fundraised by the commission for specific or individual benefit. The funds that come in that are fundraised need to be spent for the benefit of the general public. So if we want to award a scholarship to an individual, we need to fundraise specifically for that purpose with the condition to use those funds for a scholarship or award to an individual. And therefore, the fastest and easiest way to address this would be short of doing fundraising to raise the funds, would be to add a sponsorship level to the sponsor, to the current sponsors, and that would be at $1,000 level, which would be similar to the Emerald sponsor. So the benefits would be the same as we offered the Emerald sponsor, which would be 4 seats and a half a page ad in the program. Staff's recommendation is to add $1,000 sponsor, specifically identifying that these funds will be used to award a scholarship for the Gem of Glendale and the Gemstone of Glendale. This concludes my report, and I'll take any questions Commission may have.
Thank you, Ms. Alexanian. So, and thank you for the very thorough report that you provided. Also, thank you to the ad hoc committee, Commissioner Devine and Commissioner Weissman, for working with Ms. Alexanian, as well as our community members and student ex officio, Rima Sahakian, to get us to this point. So, in just going back, what the actual actions will be on the actual motion would be to approve the gemstone, which is the Veterans Award, to approve the sponsorship level. Do we need to approve that name blue topaz or get, okay? And, let's see. And then the nomination time period. Those are the three things that we're discussing. Do we have comments from the commission on any of this? Vice Chair Burns.
Is the $1,000 really $1,000 if you're looking at a, you're not getting $1,000 directed for, your scholarship? For example, a business would give $1,000 and it would be earmarked for a scholarship. However, that $1,000 is diluted by the price of the 4 tickets. Have to take that off the $1,000. And I don't know how much the half page in the program would be. That would also be diluted or would dilute the $1,000. So you really need to bring in more than $1,000 to cover if you're going to give the 4 tickets and the half page. That doesn't work out to $1,000.
Oh, I understand the point, because the point is on the other sponsorships, they're getting something in return. On the scholarship, we're now giving them item, yeah.
As I understand it, the line item that proposes the scholarship fund donation isn't limited to a single donor. So having 2 or 3 different donors would certainly replenish the fund and have the necessary amount for the scholarship.
How would that work?
So if you have 3 sponsors who've each donated $1,000 and you deduct from that value the amount of the tickets and the half-page program ad, the balance that would remain, you're asking me to do math very quickly, should hopefully be about $2,000, and if it is, then that would be the amount that's donated. If there's additional funds that are left over, say you get 4 sponsors at that level, then the balance would carry over to a future year. The request for the scholarship line item is so that you have the ability to make that award. It doesn't mean that you have to award it in that particular year.
Thank you. What does it mean then?
So if we have a gemstone award and a gem award worth $1,000 each, and we have a sponsor for each,
Yes.
can you identify that scenario then for us? What that mean? And they're all.
If
Yes.
I may, Chair Miller, in essence, we would need multiple sponsors for the scholarship in order to offset the actual cost or value of the sponsorship, for example, for the 4 seats and the cost of the ad. So say, for example, the net gain per sponsorship is $500 and not the $1,000, then we would need 4 or 5 sponsorships for the scholarships in order to total of $2,000 we would need for the 2 scholarships. So there's not a direct correlation, but there is a correlation.
We are really looking for quite a bit more than just $1,000 per scholarship.
Well, I think the way that our director just explained it to us made it very clear in terms of the offsetting. We need multiple sponsors.
We do. And we wouldn't be able to call an emerald at the monetary level of $1,000 if they were interested in just being an emerald sponsor. They would not fall into the scholarship or blue topaz or gem area. Because we have an emerald at $1,000.
They would be, if I may, they would actually be different. An emerald sponsor would be a sponsor of the luncheon. A scholarship sponsor would be a sponsor of the scholarship. So they would be different. We have multiple businesses in the past that have sponsored us in the emerald level. If they wanted to continue with that, they could. If they wanted to, this year, donate that amount or to sponsor a $1,000 scholarship, they would as well.
I think that should be clearly defined.
And
And I believe staff would take care of that part for us.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, Commissioner Burns, we would list it as a separate sponsorship level, so it wouldn't be combined with the Emerald. That's what staff is recommending, is to have a separate scholarship or Blue Topaz, whatever we want to call it, sponsor level. It's just what I was saying is the benefits would be the same as the Emerald sponsor, but they would be a separate sponsorship level, and it would be called either a scholarship sponsor or a Blue Topaz sponsor if we want to go with the actual name of a gem. And we don't, if Commission does not want to offer the same benefits to this sponsor, meaning if we want to just say $1,000 and 1 seat or 2 seats, it's I guess up to Commission on how we design the sponsor level.
Commissioner Devine?
Can I ask a question? I was under the impression, I thought, and I guess I'm wrong, that we would have a special sponsorship level for the GEM Award and then another one, a separate one for the Blue Topaz. But that's not the case, is it? You have scholarship or...
Staff had combined them into one and not separating them out into two, but we could, if that's what Commission wants, is if you want to separate it out into 2 different levels, we could have 2 different, GEM Award sponsorship and Gemstone Award sponsorship. But in order to not separate the 2, we had just 1 sponsor level, so we don't have, just for ease of keeping track in the RSVP card.
Does anyone have an input on that? Commissioner
I have a
Kajoyan?
question. When it says Gem of Glendale and Gemstone of Glendale, you are combining to Blue Topaz, one word?
No.
No.
The GEM is the student scholarship. The Gemstone is the veteran scholarship.
Will be the veteran scholarship. It's just the title of the award. The recommendation is to call it the Gemstone of Glendale, which will go to a veteran. The Gem of Glendale will still go to a high school student, which we've had in previous years. So the only addition is the Gemstone of Glendale, which will be the award that goes to the veteran.
Commissioner Weissman?
Yes, the way I understand it, we just need to have the donors identify that their donation is for a scholarship, not general purposes, the other fundraising we get from the luncheon. So perhaps rather than, I don't know if that would complicate or simplify the accounting, but we could keep the 4 levels and just have another checkbox saying, okay for scholarship or something. Would that meet the legal requirement?
I think what is being proposed is that when you normally receive a fundraising card, and on the card you have the different levels of donation, that an additional line be added so that when someone chooses specifically to donate to a scholarship fund, that they may do that willfully in advance and identify their donation to be limited for scholastic purposes, that the donation goes specifically and be earmarked specifically and come to the city with the condition of it going towards a scholarship. So the proposal will be that on that donation card that you have the same 4 items identified, and then another line item be added that says, fundraising for scholarship or the scholarship fund. And so if someone chooses to donate to the scholarship fund, they may do so and do so specifically for that purpose. If you're unable to raise, for example, if you're unable to come up with the adequate funds to offer the scholarship, then you may be offering a lower amount this year if you don't do enough fundraising to do that. Alternatively, throughout the year, someone can choose to attend one of our functions, find it wonderful and want to donate specifically to that, and they could potentially donate $5,000 just to the scholarship fund, and you can hold on to that, and during the following year's luncheon, make the award from those funds. So you're not limited. While this is the optimum time for you to do the fundraising as it relates to the scholarship fund, you're not limited to doing that just at the luncheon. But the idea is that when one makes the donation, that they do it specifically to the scholarship fund, and that you set aside those funds specifically for the purpose of awarding scholarships. So that's the only thing that's being proposed here that's different than what you've had in previous years. And I think in trying to facilitate that, what staff has done is tried to add one additional line item at the bottom of the 4 different levels that identifies that it is specifically for scholarship purposes. So a donor knows that in advance of giving the funds.
Yes, thank you. I understood that. I was just suggesting another way to do it, that perhaps if the donor, if it was clear on the donor card, they could donate $5,000 and say, I want this for scholarship, or donate the $2,500 and I want this for scholarship. So it would be like a matrix thing rather than a separate line.
Oh, any portion of their donation.
Yes, any portion of the, you know, so other than
an asterisk that says, please identify the amount that you would like to be utilized for scholarship
you
purposes.
could even make it that more complicated if you wish.
So long as the donor understands in advance or agrees in advance
Yes.
of the donation to earmark a certain amount for scholarship purposes. If that's the will of the donor, then that would be fine.
Commissioner Devine?
Well, I also think that since we're combining these two, that it should be clarified that they can donate to the GEM scholarship or to the Blue Topaz with a parentheses vets, because some people may not want to give to the high school scholarship, but they would want to do help a vet. So that might make that clarification a little bit more, I don't know, tantalizing or tempting for someone to donate. Wow, they're giving a scholarship to a vet. I want to be part of that.
If I may add just a couple of things for consideration to the rest of the commission as we discuss this. So we have the Jewel, which is the Women of Courage. We have the Gem, which is the student, and we have the Gemstone. Might we consider then, when we go to discussing the scholarship levels, based on watching what happened up here and some of the confusion, might we actually just consider Diamond, Sapphire, Emerald, Ruby, which are our original scholarships, or excuse me, our original sponsorships, and then just call it scholarship. And within that scholarship, they can either designate student or veteran. Because I think all the different wording in it is really, especially this first time out, is going to cause some sort of confusion. Or it could, we don't know. But if we call it scholarship, it clearly separates something different. I might also wonder if rather than giving, including in that scholarship 4 seats and a half page in the program, if we might think beyond that, take those things out of the mix because they're already part of other scholarships, and perhaps consider from all the things we might do as a commission to really acknowledge that particular donor, whether it be something on our website about them and or something after the award ceremony about their particular story, why they wanted to give to a veteran, why they want to, if they're so willing. We might have them come to our meeting and present them or acknowledge them. If we might do something that is more along the lines of connecting with them than instead of, I mean, we can certainly look at some acknowledgement in both the program at the lunch and some acknowledgement in the program. But my comments are really in the interest of going to clarity. Might we consider we have 3 categories of award recipients? Might we consider we have our 4 sponsorships and then we have the scholarship? And within that scholarship, are there things that we could do that are beyond just that looks like the other packages of things we've had.
Well, the thought would be that you're making the donors of the scholarship money more important than the diamond, sapphire, emerald, or ruby. When you would ask them to come, or we would do something extra special for them, or we would put them on the website. I think all of these donors should be treated equally.
Is that something that came up in the ad hoc committee? Is that a discussion that's already been vetted and discussed? Because if it has, we can move on.
No, the sponsor level was not discussed at the ad hoc committee level. The ad hoc committee discussed the Veterans Grant Award only.
And, you know, in consideration of the point you've just raised, Vice Chair Burns, it doesn't matter to me. I'm not married to the end result, but based on the confusion that took place up here, is there a way for us to designate different sort of benefits to the scholarship donors than the sponsorship donors? That's really my question to the Commission.
Well, I don't think we would want to differentiate between the different donors. In my mind, I think probably most of the people attending the luncheon, the confusion would be that we have to get their permission. I think they want to give us money, and they'd be happy if we use it for Camp Rosie or for a specific scholarship. But because of the legalities, we need to identify what money is available for a special scholarship. So I think that's the issue we need. And I think any award that's going to be given at the luncheon, those that sponsor it should be offered attendance at the luncheon. I think, you know, the seats are a good idea, and the notice in the programs.
Chair Miller, may I correct a statement I made a few moments earlier in response to a question that Commissioner Vice Chair Burns asked? You inquired about the value of the donation being different in light of the benefit that they receive. The value of the donation would stay the same. It's the deduction that they take from the IRS that is where the difference would lie. So the answer to your question is that the full value of the $1,000, if they designate towards the scholarship, would go towards that, but the deduction that they would take would be different.
Would still cost us X number of dollars to the club for each luncheon.
As I understand it, though, when you have that, you consider those tickets comped for any donor.
Well, we would be comping, but we are not. The club isn't comping.
Correct, and we can certainly look into the issue of whether or not the value of the luncheon ticket, the value of the luncheon could be deducted from the other special guests, just like the other special guests that the Commission has. So, for example, you may invite certain dignitaries and you comp their lunch tickets. And you do that through the other monies that the Commission has raised. So we can certainly look into that to see if we could do that similarly as it relates to scholarship donors. But I understood your question earlier to mean whether or not from a deduction perspective, and that's true, they would have to take the lower deduction amount, recognizing the benefit that they've received. The other comment that we were going to propose is that if the idea of this particular sponsorship level is amenable to the Commission, then perhaps the wording of the invitation itself could be designated to either the chair of the luncheon or the chair of the Commission, and that we can work through the details of it through our office, of course, so that we make sure that the public isn't confused when they receive the invitation, and that you meet all of the legal standards that you need to from our perspective.
We agree.
And we do have some time before the invitations go out, so staff just really needed direction to make sure Commission was okay with the new sponsorship level, but the details can be worked out with the event of the chair.
Okay. So are there any other comments on this? So what staff is looking for on action from us is a motion regarding this sponsorship, which is the gemstone, which is the Veterans Award. The ad hoc committee has worked through all of the details and has brought this forward to us. We then are looking at sponsorship of a scholarship. Do you want to call it scholarship, sponsorship? Do we have to discuss that further? Well, there was some confusion because, or there was some different wording used. Gemstone is the actual award being given to the veteran, right?
Correct.
So are we calling the sponsorship scholarship or Blue Topaz?
If commission has, I mean, if you guys want, if commission wants to discuss it and give a recommendation, otherwise
We'll have
staff
the
could work
event
with the
chair.
event chair.
Okay. We'll have the event chair and then the nomination period. Okay.
Madam Chair, have we looked at these 6 questions?
I have. Have you?
Yes, I've
She
heard
read them into the report.
I've heard them. I've looked at them. Is there any discussion about them?
I believe, certainly if you have discussion, I believe they were based on the criteria of our already existing awards.
Is that what we want for the Veterans Award, though?
Well, we had an ad hoc committee and
I understand that.
I'm okay. Let me ask the ad hoc committee, is this your recommendation?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Then I'm in agreement.
But I think that the people that are going to be making the decision on this award need to be sure that they agree with these questions, that they think they're valid enough to make a judgment. I think that's our only question here. The ad hoc committee, the 3 of us, 4 of us, 10 of us, how many there were,
So,
we agreed on these.
Vice Chair Burns, do you have any questions? Commissioner Kajayan, do you have any questions? I have none.
Just wanted to make sure before we put this out and have it come back and then go, oh my stars, why didn't we? We should really think about it.
Well, we certainly welcome any other ideas if you have thoughts.
Were you all in agreement? Did it take a long time to come to this? Or were they part of?
Oh, we're a pretty agreeable bunch. We had some discussion.
Good. And you were all good with these?
Mm-hmm.
Works for me then.
So where we're at is we need to provide direction to staff regarding the acceptance of the Gemstone Award and its criteria, the sponsorship level, both for the scholarship level, both for the student and the veteran, and then the nomination period. And we need a motion. Are we ready to make a motion on all of those as one, or do we want to take them individually? You want them individually? Okay, so first thing we need a motion for is the award of the Gemstone for the veteran, and that would be an acceptance of the criteria that was submitted. Anybody on that ad hoc committee want to make a motion?
I so move.
And do we have a second?
Second it.
And if we could take a roll call.
Vice Chair Burns,
Yes.
Commissioners Devine,
Yes.
Kajayan,
Yes.
Wiseman,
Yes.
Chair Miller.
Yes. And next we need a motion for the scholarship level, the amount, and what has been suggested.
If I may, Chair Miller, I think what we're looking for specifically is the establishment of the scholarship level, sponsorship level, and also the delegation of the authority to the, and you can choose, to the appropriate commission member to assist staff in finalizing the language on the card itself.
I have a question on that before we go to motion. If we designate that, if we actually name it just for simplicity today, and we name that as the event chair so that in going forward it would be the event chair that's weighing, isn't also implied that the chair can weigh in as well, or we...
I mean, you can have 2 people do that so long as you don't have a quorum.
Great. Okay. So we don't have to name the designee. Whoever,
Well, I
what
think
would
for staff's
the wording
purposes-
of the motion actually be then? Would it be staff or would it be?
No, what staff would need is, if you'd like to identify 2 individuals, you could certainly do that. But if you don't identify anyone, then we really don't know from whom to take direction.
Well, I liked your original wording that it would be the chair and the event chair. Anybody opposed to that? Okay, and then, so we need a motion on the sponsorship of that. We need the actual motion to say the acceptance of the sponsorship level and the details to be worked out with the chair and/or the event chair.
I'm looking for a motion that that adopts the levels as outlined in the report.
Yes, Do we have a motion for that?
Okay, I'll move we adopt a scholarship award, the details of which to be worked out by the chair of the commission and the chair of the event.
And are we unanimous? Okay.
I'm
And
sorry, who seconded that motion, please? Thank you.
Commissioner Kajoyan. And the next is for the nomination period.
I think we should extend it right now, taking it past, what, the 7th of February? Is there an extension to what date, the 15th? To me, you may as well just make it the 15th. But no later.
I would weigh in on that, and we know that traditionally we have gotten to the end of the nomination period and we've had to extend it because of some of the outreach on it. I don't think automatically extending the nomination period is going to prevent that. I might suggest that we stay with our nomination period and we revisit it at our February meeting, and if we need to, we will move it at that time.
Our February meeting is past the 7th.
Is it the 1st?
It's the 10th, February 10th, second Monday.
So is that the reason you have for suggesting it, or
Well,
is
it
it?
makes sense.
If you want, we could extend the 7th to the 9th, and then on the 10th, if you decide you want to extend it.
Great.
We can do that.
Okay. Extend the 7th to the 9th if you could. Yes, you could change the report to that, because we know historically where we go, so.
You need a motion for that.
So the motion would be the nomination period will be December 16th through February 9th.
Did you make that motion?
Yes, I did. I will make that motion.
With
Did I
those
say
dates.
December 16th, right? I said December 16th through February 9th.
Correct. I made that. Second it.
Second.
And are we unanimous on that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Do you have all the motions and all the tallies, Ms. Hidalgo, and we're good with this? Staff has what they need?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we are going to thank you, everybody, for your work on that, and to the ad hoc committee, and to our student ex officio and our community members as well, and also our staff liaison, Teresa Alexanian. Thank you. Now, if we could move on to the next agenda item, please.
Sure. 6B, that's under reports for information only. We have Commission on the Status of Women's 2014 Master Calendar of Events.
So as we look towards our January meeting on human and civil rights, I know that there have been some suggestions that have come in through staff. As you're looking ahead to the different topics and the different months, if you could keep in mind speakers that you have and provide all of that information to Ms. Alexanian, that would be greatly appreciated. And seeing there are no further comments, if we could go on to our next item.
Item 7, Commissioner staff comments.
Okay. Well, we have gone through quite a busy month, and we are going into a busy month as well. There are a couple of things that I attended that I just want to bring to the forefront. The weekend of November 16th, I had the opportunity to attend the Thanksgiving luncheon that is put on by the Armenian Medical Society of the California Auxiliaries Ladies. The reason I would bring this up in my comments is that I was so moved by the woman that they actually gave the award to. Her name is Sonia Nersessian. Sonia has been the chair of the Ladies Auxiliary before she turned it over to my colleague, Ramela Markarian. But what was most compelling about what Ms. Nersessian has done is that in 1991, she was invited to be a part of the Armenian Medical Society. Among her many accomplishments, and this is why I bring it to our forefront, was to raise money and donate a laptop and a large commercial van so that the doctor working for the Epileptic Center could go far out to villages, and that's in Armenia, and take care of poor children who were suffering with epilepsy. Sonia received this award. It was a pleasure to be in the audience to watch her to receive this award, and she is definitely a woman of courage that I hope her many friends are listening as we look forward to our luncheon coming up. On December 6th, I had the opportunity to attend the Kiwanis holiday party. As you know, the Kiwanis are a very active organization in Glendale, and it was a lively event, and there was a lot of money raised, and it was a pleasure to give a salute out. Although not a Kiwanian myself, it was nice to give a salute out to all my friends at that event. On December 7th, we had our LA Women event, and that was, for the most part, an all-day event, and we were very pleased with not only the turnout of people, but also the amount of press that we received on this particular event. We had, the LA Woman event was something that the Commission took on, and we had a number of co-sponsors. Our most significant sponsor was Forest Lawn Museum. We also had the Arts and Cultures Commission join us. We also had Glendale Arts join in with us, and we provided a number, we had all the women artists who are part of the LA Women exhibit up at Forest Lawn, which goes until January 5th if you haven't seen it, and to our viewing public if you haven't seen it. It is a great exhibit. It is one of its kind. It is 24 women artists who, most of them, a good portion of them, attended and were in the audience, so that at 2 o'clock when we had a panel we were able to really discuss the whole women's movement in art and really elevate the status of women in art. It was a really good opportunity for the Commission to be involved, to partner up with some of our other commissions as well, and to set the stage for things we might do together in the future. December 7th, I also, that same evening, 30 minutes after ending the LA Women event, I went on up to Montrose, and I had the opportunity to participate in the parade with the Assisting Seniors Through Enhanced Resources. That is an excellent organization in the North Foothills that really helps seniors and provides them with resources. December 8th, I participated in the Jingle Bell Run, and the only reason I would tell you this is that I finished 6th in my division, which means that the older you get, the more likely your chances of finishing higher go up. But I am proud of myself nonetheless, and I'm mostly proud, as you may know if you follow me on Facebook, I passed all of my 23-year-old interns on that race route. Today, and most significantly, because I get to look in their eyes every day, I provided a lunch up in La Cañada through the Live Well Senior Program to 260 seniors. We had a wonderful holiday party. We also listened to the Jack Lance Big Band. Many times I know that with my seniors, this might be the one and only holiday party that they receive, and it's really a nice way to come together with everyone. I also just want to take a moment before we go on to acknowledge, as we're going forward, December 12th, or this week in particular, we will witness the retirement of our police chief, Ron DePompa. Ron DePompa, the chief, his entire family have been a great source of support for me, both in mentoring me in the community, and he is a 36-year veteran of this department, He is a native Glendale person who has gone to all of our schools. He is passionate about safety and security in our city. He has done a tremendous job. As we get ready to welcome our new chief, who we will see in a couple of weeks, and we know will carry on the torch in a great way, at least we know this week we will honor somebody who definitely wears a badge of courage and a badge of honor, and that's Police Chief Rhonda Pompa. And with that, we're going to go over to this side of the dais.
So on November 16th, we attended the tour of the grounds of Rockhaven. I believe it was Chair Miller and Commissioner Wiseman and Commissioner Kajayan with us. And it was great to see that people were actually very involved and very dedicated to preserving the grounds, which have a lot of history. So that was a very great event. And on December 4th, I attended the holiday tree lighting here. And thank you to Director Duran for extending the invitation to the commission as well. And on December 7th, we had the LA Women Exhibit Day of Art, History, and Culture at Forest Lawn, and that was also a great event to be at. And I walked the red carpet and talked to a couple of people from the press, so it was great to see that people were actually there and actually giving attention to all of the amazing women artists that we have. And yesterday, I attended the Say No to Drugs Holiday Classic 5K at Universal Studios, where the girls from Girls on the Run were actually participating, and Commissioner Wiseman and Ms. Teresa Alexandrian was with me yesterday, and they joined me on passing out the medals when the girls crossed the finish line. So it was great to see that the girls were very excited and they were very dedicated to their run. So that was a great accomplishment to everyone from Girls on the Run, and I congratulate them. I congratulate the coaches that were with them, and hopefully they will extend another invitation to the commission for another race.
Thank you.
Here.
Commissioner Devine.
I just have some congratulations to send out. First of all, to the YWCA for the We Carry On Runway Luncheon. It was fantastic. I was at a table with Seroptimist, and we bid on an outfit, so the funds went to the YWCA program for vets, and a vet actually got a suit. So it was quite a successful event, and I congratulate Lisa and Michelle. Congratulations. Thanks to Parks and Rec. The Christmas tree lighting event was great. Thank you for bringing it back. And the snow was an extra special touch. We all enjoyed that. I want to congratulate Susie Jacobs for the CV Alliance name change. She's really transformed that coalition into something very important. Congressman Adam Schiff was in attendance at the meeting Friday morning, and he spoke about the legalization of marijuana, both for medicinal reasons and for general use, and was extremely interesting, and he's a fabulous speaker. That goes without saying. I want to thank Seroptimist International, because we will be receiving a grant from them for our Camp Rosie program on December 16th. So thank you all to Seroptimist International of Glendale. Women's Civic League has a really important luncheon coming up, and if you're interested in attending this one, you should try to get a ticket. Senator Carol Liu will be there, and Assemblyman Mike Gatto to answer questions and to talk about legislation and what has been going on in the California legislation this past year and what's coming up. Glendale Healthy Kids is hosting again, or being hosted actually, by Bloomingdale's on the 12th. From 10 to 6, if you come into Bloomingdale's and you get a special card that we will be giving out, and I'll be at the table, I don't know, for an hour or two that day, and everything that you buy, a percentage will, all of your purchases, a percentage will be given to Glendale Healthy Kids. They are committed to, Bloomingdale's management is committed to helping the community and being part of the community, and we thank them. And finally, I just want to wish a warm and happy holiday season to everyone that's out there who watches our commission meetings, and the happiest of New Year's. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Burns.
Thank you. I'm going to start by talking about the Christmas tree. That was a wonderful event, and it's nice to have it back again. Thanksgiving came, went. Happy Thanksgiving to you all and to everyone. The Historical Society had a lovely party this past weekend, and the Community Foundation also had a nice dinner. The Hoover Tour of Homes. Did you mention that? Uh-huh. Well, then I'll mention it.
I was at the LA Women event, so that's
Yes,
why.
I know. But anyway, the Hoover Tour of Homes and then the Arts and Culture, that was super duper. Congratulations for getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, Commissioner. The Girls on the Run, weren't you there at 6?
No, I didn't have to be there till 8.
8? Oh, I'd have gone then.
Oh, you should have.
6 o'clock. A little bit too much for me. Anyway.
Not being a runner, I just was at the end.
Oh, okie doke. Civic League, yes. Is it, what is Supervisor? No. Assemblyman Gatto and Senator Liu will be at Women's Civic League. That is held at the Elks. They have a super lunch with, if you don't want gravy, just ask them to serve it without. December 12th, Women's Civic League. Glendale Beautiful, December 13th and 14th. That's the Luminarias. If you haven't been up to the Casa, I'll let Commissioner Wiseman finish this one, talking about the Casa and the Luminarias. Merry Christmas, the 25th. Happy New Year. And hopefully we'll have a wonderful 2014.
Thank you. Commissioner Kajoyan?
November 14, I attended Live Life Luncheon that's given by Glendale Adventist Hospital, and the director is our Chair Miller. And it was given in ARS headquarters. 150 people attended, and it was a very successful event. I guess 50 people, they registered to be members. On November 16, with my Chair Miller and Sahagian and Wiseman, we visited the tour, Rockhaven tour, Saturday, November 16, and it was very good place to see. December 4, I attended the City of Glendale, the holiday tree lighting, which was very good event. It's snow. And Cerritos Elementary School, they cheer us with the singing Christmas carols. It was great event, enjoyed by all. I can see the people who enjoy, especially the kids with Santa Claus. On December 5th, I attended with Commissioner Devine, the Women Foundation of California 2 years later, mixed impact of criminal justice, reliance on Los Angeles women. It was very informative seminar that we attended, and we learned a lot that we didn't know. I would like to share with you, and there was 4 panels, especially the last panel. It says formerly incarcerated experts. It was expert panel, Susan Burton, and she's the executive director, A New Way of Life. 15 years she was in prison, and when she came out, she started leading and now she has 5 houses to support all the women that they are out, women and young women, to give them house that because when they come out from prison, they think that the society is not accepting them, and they're having housing problems. So she bring them in, and she almost supported 750 ladies, and 150 of them that united with their children and families because they're having problem. And she got awarded by CNN as a woman of, I wrote it somewhere, okay. She got awarded of top 10 heroes in 2010. And it was very, I said, informative, that half of it Moses mentioned also in the report. And Senator Liu and Senator Kevin DeLeon, they were very good speakers. And they mentioned, especially they emphasize about substance abuse and sexual abuse, trauma, and mental help, which is they need it. On December 6th, with Commissioner Devine, I attended also CV Aliens. That was first time for me, and thank you, Chair Miller, that you allow me to go to that meeting, and it was a very good meeting. Especially, I learned that it's CV Aliens works to prevent underage drug addiction and alcohol abuse in La Crescenta Valley, and it was very good. As Congressman and all the speakers, they gave us very good informative information. And December 7, also I attended LA Women yesterday, today, and tomorrow, a day of art, history, and culture. It was an amazing event with great artists and powerful ladies. And I guess tomorrow I am going to attend Catalina Verdugo Adobe Park. And I wish you all Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Weissman.
On November 13th, the day after our last meeting, the Glendale Human Relations Coalition sponsored an interfaith dinner dialogue, and I was very, very excited about the results. Our president, Lenore Solis, arranged for her church, the Church of the Incarnation Roman Catholic Community, to host an interreligious, intercultural dinner dialogue at their community center. We asked Council Member Zara Sananian to invite members of his church, and he invited members from St. Gregory's Armenian Catholic Church, St. Mary's Armenian Apostolic Church, the Glendale Armenian Church of the Nazarene, and leaders from the Glendale National Committee. And several of us on the Human Relations Coalition are atheists, so we brought more variety into the room. There were about 40 people attending a potluck dinner, and we shared information. The clergy people there spoke, and then as an icebreaker, we went around the room and every individual mentioned what they were working on, what they were doing, and the various programs and activities. And it was very clear as we mingled that there was a whole lot of commonality in what we're doing in the community. And one of the participants noted that Glendale does not have a commission on human rights, but does have a commission on the status of women. And I invited everyone there that had an issue that had anything to do with women to come to our organization. And I guess they didn't make it this week, this month, but perhaps. And we're very excited. I was able to outreach to a member of the Muslim community, and we're hoping to do in the new year more dinner dialogues. And if any of you are involved in any organizations that are interested in participating, please let me know, because the Human Relations Coalition would like to have more positive interactions and get people to know more of the other communities and groups in the area, and perhaps partnering together can, 2 and 2 can add up to 4 if you work it right. Can add up to 5, not just 4. You can do it better. And as several of the other commissioners have mentioned, November 16th, we had our tour of Rockhaven. And for those of you that weren't able to make it, there's another opportunity to see Rockhaven, and that's next Saturday, December 14th. It's the Crescenta Valley Prom Plus tour of homes, and Rockhaven will be on it. And for although our tour was free, this will cost you $25, but it's an excellent cause for the all-night party after the prom at CV, so at the Y in La Cañada, so it's safe and students don't get into trouble. And there's also decorated homes that'll be interesting in a boutique at St. Luke's with Christmas crafts and things if you'd like to buy. And the Glendale Beautiful Luncheon was wonderful. I still have Wild Mountain Time running through the song. Dennis Doyle, a harpist, Celtic harpist, who teaches at Glendale Community College, was our entertainment, and he was just marvelous. It was wonderful. And again, that same organization, as Commissioner Burns mentioned, Friday night the 13th and the 14th are luminarias at the Casa Adobe de San Rafael, and the piñata in the afternoon Saturday for kids if they want to come out. It's a wonderful opportunity to see the other adobe. We'll see the new one, or the renovated one, tomorrow. And the CV Alliance, the newly named CV Alliance, that used to be called the Crescenta Valley Drug and Alcohol Prevention Coalition. They've shortened their name to make it more easily recognizable. And the breakfasts are always very good, and the networking is always very interesting to get together, a good networking opportunity. And then, yes, after being up for the parade Friday or Saturday, the 7th, I got up early yesterday morning and made it to Universal and helped hand out the medals for the Girls on the Run, and it is very inspirational. And Rima didn't mention, her mother came along too and was very helpful with us, and even stood in line for the shuttle while we rested. So it was really wonderful to see everybody. And I'd like to wish those who celebrate Christmas a Merry Christmas, and I'll wish everybody a happy solstice from the atheist community. So thank you.
I would like to congratulate you, Mr. Jesse, for your Christmas tree lighting, despite being the Hunger Games premiere on the same night. You had to challenge that. And I attended the LA Woman premiere exhibit on December 7th at the Forest Lawn, and I have to say that was an extraordinary and breathtaking venue that they held it in, because amazing things happened in that venue itself, and the way that it presented itself was parallel to the actions that the women held. I mean, the artists were amazing, and everyone had something to say that was so important that you could take it off to you in the future. I would like to warn my peers to stay safe during December, as it does have an alcohol rise in the streets, and as our speaker said today, there is an experimental use during the month of December, and I would like to wish all my peers good luck on their finals, and I hope they do very well. And happy holidays.
Thank you. Well, thank you. This is our last meeting for 2013. I would like to give a special thanks to this entire commission, to our student ex officios, to also thank our council and let you know how grateful we are to have a full commission that fully participates from all different walks of life with all different interests. In this time of gratitude, this particular commission wants to really extend our thanks to Dignity Health for providing us with a $10,000 scholarship, as well as Seroptimus International for our $1,000 scholarship. As you know, we rely on the good works of other people partnering with us in order to continue to do things with Camp Rosie and all of the things that matter to this commission. I do want to remind all the commissioners, just as we have one quick reminder going into January, that the Association of the California Commissions for Women are having a summit here. So as we're all doing our preparations, please keep in mind January 17th to the 19th, and we'll be sending out information on this very important summit, which is Women's Commissions as a Force for Economic Security. As we look forward to the holiday, I thought what I would do is close with something that we all know, but something that is meaningful to each of us, things that cannot be seen and cannot be touched. But we are grateful. We are grateful for all the community partners that we've had in 2013. We're grateful for our sponsors. And I thought I would close by just going back to Francis P. Church's letter to Virginia O'Hanlon. You know this one. It's one of the most touching written demonstrations of the importance in believing what cannot be seen, touched, or proven. This letter originally appeared in the September 21st, 1897 edition of the New York Sun, and it remains a classic today. And it goes like this. I'm not reading all of it, just a stanza, and then we'll close our meeting. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. He exists as certainly as love and generosity and devotion exist, and you know that they are abound. And to give your life its highest beauty and joy, alas, how dreary would the world be if there were no Santa Claus? It would be as dreary as if there were no Virginias. There would be no childlike faith then, no poetry, no romance to make tolerable this existence. We should have no enjoyment except in sense and sight. The eternal light with which childhood fills the world would be extinguished. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. And with that, I wish you a very happy holiday, a very wonderful New Year's, and may we all continue to believe in all the good things to come in 2014. This meeting is adjourned at 7:47.
In this crazy New York town.